Hikerj here. This week I'm going to have a trail tale for you. And this one's about a really large animal that we encountered on a moonlit hike. We thought it would be really smart to hike the last 3 miles of this stretch of trail with using the full moon. But we did not expect to encounter a huge beast like this in the woods. I said, now let's go. And Tim's just standing there with a hatchet in his hand, facing the darkness. And he says, never turn your back on the enemy. I was like, okay, buddy, let me know how that turns out. And I just scurried past him. Hey, if this is the first time to my channel, thanks for coming by. If you could subscribe, that would be awesome. And those of you who have been subscribing, I've gotten like 500 subscribers this month, and it's been awesome. Thank you so much for coming by and being part of my trail crew. Now let's get into the story. This story was one of my favorite animal encounters. It was not fun at the time, but afterwards it was so interesting. This happened on Isle Royale. Isle Royale National Park is actually an island, a really long island. Here's the map of it. Just above northern Michigan. Whoops. Just about between northern Michigan and Canada. And it stretches out all the way across like this. And what's really cool is for this trip, what we did was you take a boat over. It takes like 6 hours to take the boat over. And we landed in this harbor, hiked a little ways down. The next day we actually caught a boat that ferried us to this end. And then we just went the whole spine, the Greenstone Ridge, all the way back, and then the boat back type of thing. So it took a week, and it was an amazing experience on this island. Now, Isle Royale is pretty much a wilderness island. There is a little bit of a harbor at each end with a couple buildings, ranger stations, that type of thing, and a lodge at the one. But the rest of it is all just campsites and shelters, which that's what I love about it. And it's really fly. There's a lot of flies and mosquitoes and bugs and things. So that's why we tend to go in August. August is perfect weather. It's a little bit cool, but the bugs are gone, the black flies are gone, and the moose aren't quite in the rut, because you wait another month or so, the moose get in the rut, and it is crazy. You do not want to be around there. They have pictures and footage of like moose going at it down in the harbor, like just fighting and fighting each other and brawling and that type of thing. So August is like the perfect time to hit the island. Now, to understand this story a little bit more, I should talk about where I was at in my backpacking experience at that time. I had a really good buddy, Tim 10 Pound. 10 Pound was his trail name. And we had the same philosophy for hiking. So it's really great to get a buddy that has the same, that you just have a really good rhythm with when you go out into the backcountry. We were really into adventure races, those types of things. They were pretty new. And we just liked the endurance, the distance type hiking. So what we would do was we would get up in the morning, have breakfast, then we'd hike till lunch, find some really cool place to hang out for like an hour or two for lunch, eat, and then hike another 5 hours, stop for dinner, hang out there for a couple hours, an hour or something, and then hike till about a half hour before darkness. And then we would just find a place to put down our bedrolls and mats and just sleep on the ground, sometimes pull a tarp over us if weather's or something bad. But why I like that type of hiking, backpacking, is because people on the island, what they do is they wake up and then they just boogie like 10, 15 miles as fast as they can go, and they get to the next site so they can get shelters. So they're there like at 11 o'clock, between 11 o'clock a.m. and 1. So now they're just kind of at that site all day. And some people like that, and that's totally chill and totally cool. But 10 Pound and I, we just like to cover ground. So it was such a great way for us to hike until we were wherever we were for the night. And then we'd find a nice kind of place and then put down our bedrolls and just sleep. So what happened on this particular night was that we were right in the middle of the island. Hatchet Lake is where we ended up for dinner, and it was awesome. I'll show you a picture of what we were looking at while we were having dinner, and the moon was already coming out. Full moon, no clouds, nothing. And we were like, we got about 3 miles up to Siskiwit Mountain where we kind of wanted to stop for the night. Why don't we just stay here until it gets dark and then do a moonlit hike? Sounds like a good idea, right? Right in the middle of all this wilderness. It gets dark, we start hiking up the trail. We did have headlamps, but of course they were like bulbs, not like crazy LEDs like nowadays. So they were okay for like what's out in front of you and your footing, but not really much further out than like 10 feet. We got probably about a mile, maybe 2 miles up, and we had like about a mile to go. And I said, I gotta go to the bathroom, So I said, can you just stop a minute? So he stops, and I just turned sideways on the trail, start to go to the bathroom, do my business. And I'm like standing there, and it's really quiet, and it seems beautiful. It's pitch black around us, but you can see the moon and all that. All of a sudden, I hear this crack, 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 like big branches like being broken, right? And it's kind of out there a ways. It's not like right by me, but I'm like, hey, Tim, you hear that? And he's like, yeah. And so I'm like finishing up my business, and then you still hear another crack, 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 crack. And now it's like, and I'm like, oh, it's coming towards us, And he's like, yeah, it is. And I'm like standing there, and I'm like, I can hear it coming closer and closer, and it like stops, and we're like waiting for a minute, and then I hear And we're like, oh dude, that is a moose. That's a big moose, you know? And we're like, oh crap, you know, let's just stay calm, cool, whatever. And then it takes some more steps closer. Crack, crack, crack. And now it's wild because you can't see out past like 5-10 feet. It could be like right there at any moment. So I'm like, all right, 10 pound, this is what we're gonna do. Undo your sternum strap, undo your belt strap, and we're gonna start hiking up this trail. If you hear it start running or it's gonna hit you, let it hit the pack. Roll your, let it take the pack, take the brunt and try to roll out of your pack and just get to a tree or something. And then I turn over and I look at him and he is standing there. There's 10 pound standing sideways, looking right into the darkness. And I said, all right, come on, let's go. We got to get going. He says, never turn your back on the enemy. And I'm like, holy cow, are you serious? You're going to take a moose down with like a hatchet? It's like a hatchet this big, like an old school wood handled hatchet. I know it's crazy we used to carry those, but we did. And he's just standing there and I'm like, all right, buddy, well, let me know how that goes. Come on, we got to go. And then like reluctantly, he's like, all right, so he gets going and we start moving up the trail. And at this point, we're like going up the trail. This moose is flanking us. We can hear it crack, 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 crack. And we're like, holy crap, dude, how is it still coming, And at that point, it kind of dawned on us that it was probably a female and it had a calf with it. And we were probably in its territory for sleeping or whatnot, and it was not comfortable, and it was letting us know that we got to move on out of there. So we were hiking pretty fast, stumbling up the rocky ways and everything. And, these things seem like they take like an hour and a half or something. It was probably 5 minutes total. But, your heart's beating and you're like, this is crazy. We were so stupid. Why'd we do this? When we get up there and it sort of stopped and we could see it, like hear it stop, right? But that was like, we thought that would be a good thing, right? You hear it stop coming. But at that point now, we thought it might be on our trail and we just couldn't hear it because it stopped breaking all these branches because, man, they're huge. They can just knock branches down. So now we're just like, Tim keeps looking back, of course, like this, keeps looking back. And every time your light goes back, you look back and you expect to see this big moose coming. It was a trip, man. I'm going to tell you, we were freaked out. So then we get up to Siskiyou Mountain, right? And it's got kind of like a balding up top. Like it's actually like more rock than anything than trees. And I have a shot of this. So we are like, okay, so now what do we do? It hadn't followed us for a while. We sat there and we just watched down the trail and we were up on this thing. So that was pretty moonlit. We could see all the rock in the area and stuff and then the darkness of the trail. It never came up. We sat there for quite a while. So then we're like, okay, where are we going to sleep? Because I don't really feel comfortable just sleeping on the ground like we normally do because we get like all stomped on. So we found there were like these little pines about this big kind of up on the middle, on up top of this rock and then slanting down. So it was like pines and rock. Here's a shot of it. This is where we actually slept, like on this slope. Now here's what you do when you're in this situation. You're thinking, all right, now I think don't moose have hooves? Wouldn't it be slipping on the rocks? I think they'd slip on the rocks if they got hooves. I mean, you're going through all these stupid conversations, right? They walk on rock all the time. They're in the water. They're everywhere. But so we thought if we were on an angle, the moose wouldn't actually come down and try to stomp us or whatever. So we slept on a horrible angle, like leaning back all night long, and woke up baking on the stone. It was so hot. The sun was just baking right on the stone, and we woke up in this spot, and it was crazy. It was absolutely like a very unique experience that we had. And I'm wondering, have you ever had a weird experience with animals? Of course, it could have went really, really bad, and we're glad it didn't. We wouldn't do it over. We learned some lessons while we were doing it. I want to hear from you. Have you ever done some things where you're like, afterwards, you're like, why did we do that? But it was pretty cool. That was kind of how that you sum up this experience. It was like probably not the smartest thing to do, but ultimately it ended up to be kind of cool because for that whole time we were just waiting to be tromped by a moose. And if you have ever hiked in an area or even been around moose and driving around in those stuff, they're huge. They're much bigger than a horse. In Isle Royale, they'll actually use the trails. So we had some just flop down in front of us and just stroll in front of us. And they're just massive. Just, okay, trail's yours. You just let them have it. And it wasn't the rut, so I think we were really safe. I do believe that it was probably a female. We talked to rangers afterwards, and they believe that's probably what happened too. She was just letting us know, hey, stay back. This isn't your territory. We're sleeping here tonight. Just stay away. And that's why she was snorting and following us for a while. Hopefully you liked this story. If you did, if you could subscribe and like, that would be awesome. Till next time, just remember, life's a hike, so hike happy. Probably not in the middle of the night in big moose country. Thanks so much for sticking around to the end of the video. If you're new to my channel, if you hit subscribe, that'd be awesome. I put out new videos every Thursday around outdoor gear. And if you'd like to support me, you can check out my merchandise. I have my Hike Happy shirt on here at my store. You can click that down below and check out the other apparel that I have. Till next Thursday, just go ahead and watch some of my other videos.